The Council of 12 Suns sat in a silence so profound it felt like a physical weight, pressing against the chitinous plates and ethereal shrouds of the delegates gathered within the obsidian sphere. This was not the silence of peace, nor the meditative quiet of the monastic orders of the Kelthal. It was the suffocating, static-charged silence of a predator holding its breath. The chamber itself was a marvel of biocrystalline engineering, suspended in the null-gravity well of a trinary star system, designed to intimidate and humble any who entered. Massive viewports offered a panoramic view of the three suns, one blue, one gold, one dying red, their light filtering through the glasssteel to cast long, distorted shadows across the grand debating floor. In the center of the room, a holographic projection flickered, displaying the ravaged remains of the Cygnus Armada. Debris fields that had once been the pride of the galaxy's most martial race were now nothing more than drifting slag and frozen vapor. There were no energy signatures, no distress beacons, just the cold, final absolute of total cessation. High Counselor Vrax, a being of immense age whose body was more cybernetic lattice than organic matter, leaned forward on his gravity throne. His multifaceted eyes, capable of perceiving the electromagnetic spectrum in 12 distinct bands, narrowed as he studied the destruction. He was the representative of the Ethelgard, the species that had dictated the laws of galactic warfare for 10,000 cycles. To the Ethelgard, war was a ritual, a high-stakes game of economy and territorial concession, played with strict rules of engagement, designated battle zones, and mandated ceasefires to allow for the collection of the dead. It was civilized, it was sustainable. It kept the galaxy turning, the factories producing, and the populations controlled. But what floated in the holographic display was not war, it was erasure. The Cygnus Armada had not been defeated, it had been switched off. Every reactor, every life support system, every neural link had ceased function simultaneously. The reports are confirmed, Vrax's voice rasped, synthesized through a translator that stripped away the panic he felt in his biological core. The aggressors from the Void Rim, the ones we call the Nile, were not repelled by the Cygnus. The Cygnus were preparing to engage when they were silenced. The Nile fleet is untouched. They are advancing toward the core systems. We have no fleets capable of matching their yield. The Cygnus were our shield, and they are gone. A murmur rippled through the gathered delegates. The avian Kree screeched softly, their feathers fluffing in distress, while the lithid golems of Terra Nova ground their stone jaws in agitation. They were all looking at Vrax, waiting for the elder race to provide a solution, a strategy, a salvation. "There is one option," whispered a voice from the shadows of the lower tiers. It was Ambassador Alara of the Minari, a species known for their psychic sensitivity and their terrifying pragmatism. She stepped into the light of the dying red sun, her pale, translucent skin glowing faintly. "We have exhausted the martial races. The Krell are broken. The Cygnus are dead. The Ethelgard fleets are too slow to mobilize. We must invoke the Article of Desperation." The room seemed to drop in temperature. The Article of Desperation. It was a clause buried so deep in the Galactic Concordat that most species believed it to be a myth, a ghost story to frighten young diplomats. It referred to the lifting of the Great Ban, the ban on the Sol system, the ban on humanity. "Madness," Vrax boomed, his gravity throne humming as it rose in indignation. "You speak of the Terrans as if they are a weapon to be unholstered. Do you forget why they were quarantined? Do you forget the Treaty of Silence?" He gestured violently with a metallic claw. "Humans do not understand war. They do not understand the economy of conflict. To bring them into this is to invite a catastrophe greater than the Nile. The Nile want our resources, the humans want an end. And they do not care what they break to achieve it." The fear in Vrax's voice was palpable. It wasn't the fear of defeat. It was the fear of obsolescence. The Ethelgard had spent millennia curating a galaxy where conflict was a managed state of being. Humans, in their brief and terrifying integration period centuries ago, had shown a propensity for solving problems with a finality that the galaxy found abhorrent. "The Nile do not play by your rules either, Vrax," Alara countered, her voice calm but piercing. "They consume, they do not negotiate. If we do not call the humans, we die. If we call the humans, we risk. Change, I prefer change to extinction." She tapped a sequence into her console, overriding the Council's standard protocols. "I have already sent the signal. The Sol relay is active." Chaos erupted. Shouts, screeches, and the grinding of stone filled the chamber. Vrax slammed his fist onto his console, trying to jam the transmission, but it was too late. The holoprojector in the center of the room shifted. The image of the destroyed Cygnus fleet vanished, replaced by a simple, rotating icon, a golden Voyager disk, the ancient sigil of pre-contact humanity. A timer appeared below it. They were already responding. The arrival was not what the younger races expected. There were no tear in the fabric of space, no thunderous warp exit shockwaves that shattered windows, no armadas of dreadnoughts bristling with kinetic cannons. The sensors of the obsidian sphere simply registered a new contact. One moment empty space, the next a single vessel. It was small, sleek, and terrifyingly non-reflective. It absorbed the light of the three suns, appearing as a tear in the visual field, a silhouette of absolute darkness. It did not hail them. It did not scan them. It simply sat there, motionless, radiating a profound sense of observation. The council fell silent again, the bickering dying in their throats. "They are hailing us," the communications officer, a multi-limbed insectoid, chirped nervously. "Audio only, no video." Vrax composed himself, settling back into his throne. He had to maintain the dignity of the Ethel Guard. "Put them through." The static cleared, and a voice filled the chamber. It was not the guttural roar of a warrior or the synthesized precision of a machine. It was a human voice, soft, weary, and sounding distinctly like a disappointed parent. "This is Admiral Vance of the United Sol Federation. You rang." "Admiral," Vrax began, injecting as much authority into his voice as he could muster. "We have summoned you under the Article of Desperation. The galaxy faces a threat, the Nile. They have destroyed the Cygnus. They threaten the core. We require your assistance. We require your fleets." There was a pause on the other end, a silence that stretched long enough to make the diplomats squirm. "We don't have fleets anymore, Counselor," Vance replied. "We dismantled them. You banned us from war, remember? You said our methods were unsportsmanlike. You said we ruined the economy of glory, so we stopped building warships." A ripple of horror went through the chamber. No warships, then they were doomed. Ilara looked stricken. "But," Vance continued, the tone shifting slightly, becoming sharper, colder. "We didn't stop building solutions, we just changed the methodology." "The Nile are approaching the sphere," the sensor officer screamed. "Subspace rupture detected, they are here." The reality of the situation crashed down upon the council. The Nile had tracked the transmission. The void outside the station tore open, bleeding violet energy. Massive biomechanical leviathans poured out, their hulls slick with void oil, their weapons charging with energies that defied the standard classifications of the council. These were not ships meant for tactical combat. They were world eaters. The station's shields flared as the first volley struck, the station shuddering violently. "Admiral," Vrax shouted, abandoning all pretense of superiority. "If you have a solution, use it now." "We need authorization," Vance said calmly. "Full, unrestricted authorization to resolve the conflict. Once we start, we don't stop until the equation is balanced. You know this. Do we have the mandate?" "Yes, yes, by the suns, you have the mandate." Vrax screamed as a support beam crashed down in the back of the hall. "Understood," Vance said. "Stand by, initiating pacification protocols." The small human ship did not fire a weapon. It did not launch missiles. Instead, it pulsed. A ripple of distortion, invisible to the naked eye but screaming across every sensor band, expanded outward from the dark vessel. It passed through the station, through the council members, causing a momentary sensation of vertigo, like falling in a dream. Then it hit the Nile fleet. The council watched the viewports, expecting explosions. They expected the Nile ships to crumple, to burn, to shatter. Instead, the Nile fleet simply stopped. Their engines dimmed. The violet energy wreathing their weapons dissipated. The Leviathans drifted, their momentum carrying them forward slowly until they came to a halt. There was no debris, no fire, just stillness. "What did you do?" Ilara whispered, staring at the readings. "They're life signs. They are still active. Their reactors are online. Why aren't they firing?" "We didn't attack them," Vance's voice returned, sounding even more tired than before. "We communicated with them. We introduced a logic plague, a mimetic hazard. We showed them the futility of their objective." Vrax stared at the speaker. "You talk to them. The Nile are a hive mind of consumption. They cannot be reasoned with." "Everything can be reasoned with, Counselor, if you understand the language of its biology," Vance replied. "We analyzed their architecture. We found that their aggression is driven by a feedback loop of resource scarcity anxiety. We simply removed the anxiety. We uploaded a simulation of infinite abundance directly into their collective consciousness. They aren't attacking because they think they've already won. They are currently experiencing a state of euphoric satisfaction. They will sit there until their fuel runs out, or until we decide to tow them to a rehabilitation zone." The horror in the room was different now. It wasn't the fear of death, it was the fear of the unnatural. The humans had not fought the enemy, they had edited the enemy's reality. They had imposed their will upon the very minds of the Nile, stripping them of their drive, their purpose, their nature. This was why humans were banned. The galaxy fought wars of bodies and ships. Humans fought wars of concepts. They didn't just defeat an enemy, they dismantled the reason for the enemy's existence. "This is monstrous," Vrax whispered. "You have trapped them in a delusion." "We saved your lives," Vance said, his voice hardening. "And we saved theirs. No one died today. Isn't that what you wanted? Peace." The small human ship began to turn away. "We are leaving now. The Nile are harmless. Do not disturb them. They are happy. And Counselor, do not call us again unless you are ready for the cost. We do not fight for glory. We do not fight for territory. We fight to end the fighting. And the only way to truly end a war is to remove the desire to wage it." The channel closed. The human ship vanished as quickly as it had arrived, slipping back into the void. The Council of 12 Suns sat in the silence once more, looking out at the drifting, dreaming fleet of the Nile. The red sun dipped below the horizon, casting the room in shadow. They realized then that the ban had never been to protect the galaxy from human violence. It had been to protect the galaxy from human peace. A peace so absolute, so crushing, that it left no room for the free will to choose conflict. The humans had evolved past war, and in doing so they had become something far more terrifying, the arbiters of reality itself. And somewhere out in the dark, they were watching, waiting for the next time the children of the galaxy needed to be told to go to sleep.